Barbara stands frozen in her perfectly decorated new home, staring at her phone in disbelief. The screen displays her mother's social media post, proud of our boy's first home, with pictures of her brother's apartment warming party happening right now, the exact same day as her housewarming. 11 years of saving every penny, sending invitations a month in advance, and preparing the perfect celebration, all for an empty house. The doorbell finally rings at 10 p.m. It's her neighbor with leftover cake eyes filled with pity. I remember the day I first dreamed of having my own home. I was 8 years old, crammed into our 2-bedroom apartment with my parents and younger brother Tommy. The walls were thin, the pipes groaned all night, and the 4 of us were constantly bumping into each other in the narrow hallway. That Christmas, a classmate invited me over for a holiday party. Her house had a white picket fence, red shutters, and a backyard with a tire swing. Inside, there were separate bedrooms for everyone. A dining room with a real table, not a folding card table like ours, and a kitchen where more than one person could stand at a time. Someday, I whispered to myself, I'll have a house just like this. That night, I started a journal titled, My Dream Home, filling its pages with magazine cutouts and crayon drawings. My parents laughed when they found it. Focus on school first, Barbara, my father said. Houses cost money, and money doesn't grow on trees. But I was determined. When I was 16, I got my first job at the local grocery store, working weekends and summers. Every paycheck, I put half into a savings account labeled Future Home. My mother thought I should use that money for clothes or movies like other teenagers. You're too serious for your age, she would tell me. Live a little. Tommy never saved a penny. When he wanted a new gaming console, my parents helped him buy it. When he needed money for prom, they covered it. But when I asked for help with college application fees, my father said, Barbara, you need to learn the value of hard work. I graduated college with honors and 3 part-time jobs. While my friends moved into nice apartments with roommates, I rented a studio apartment in the worst part of town. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The neighbors fought loudly at all hours. But the rent was cheap, and every dollar saved brought me closer to my dream. For 11 years, I tracked every expense in a notebook. Lunch out with coworkers skipped. New clothes, only when absolutely necessary. Vacations, never. Birthday celebrations, a single cupcake with a candle. My diet consisted largely of ramen noodles, rice, and beans. My furniture came from curbside pickups and thrift stores. My friends eventually stopped inviting me places because they knew my answer would be, Sorry, I'm saving for my house. Some of them drifted away completely. Others patronized me with comments like, You only live once, Barbara. Or, You can't take it with you when you die. But Tommy lived differently. He changed jobs every few years, spent money as quickly as he earned it, and somehow always landed on his feet. When he couldn't make rent, he moved back home. When his car broke down, my parents bought him another. When he maxed out his credit cards, my father helped him consolidate the debt. Tommy's just finding himself, my mother would explain. He's the creative type. Meanwhile, I worked my way up from administrative assistant to marketing manager at the same company for 8 years straight. I never missed a day, never complained, never asked for special treatment. Each promotion meant more money for my house fund. After 11 years of sacrifice, I had saved enough for a 20% down payment on a modest home in a safe neighborhood 30 minutes outside the city. My credit score was nearly perfect. The bank approved my mortgage application immediately. When the realtor handed me the keys, I cried. The house wasn't large or fancy, but it had everything I'd dreamed of. 3 bedrooms, a real dining room, a backyard with enough space for a garden and a kitchen where I could finally cook proper meals. The moment I stepped through the door as the owner, I felt a sense of achievement so powerful it took my breath away. I did it, I whispered to the empty rooms. I really did it. For weeks, I planned my housewarming party. I wanted everything to be perfect. I sent formal invitations to 20 people, my family, a few colleagues, and the friends who had stuck by me through the years. The date was set for Saturday, July 15th, starting at 3 in the afternoon. I confirmed with everyone, including my parents and Tommy, a month in advance. Everyone said they would come. I created personalized party favors, little house-shaped cookies with each guest's name iced on the roof, tiny potted plants with tags that read, Grow with me in my new home, and keychains with miniature house keys. I cleaned until every surface sparkled. I prepared my grandmother's special recipes from scratch, her famous lasagna garlic bread and tiramisu for dessert. The day before the party, my mother called. "Barbara, honey," she said, her voice casual. "I was wondering if we could reschedule your little housewarming thing. Something's come up with Tommy." My heart sank. "Mom, everything's ready. The food, the decorations. What came up?" "Oh, it's exciting, actually. Tommy just got a new apartment, and he's having some people over tomorrow to celebrate. I thought maybe you could do your thing next weekend instead." I gripped the phone tighter. "Mom, I sent the invitations a month ago. Everyone's already confirmed. Can't Tommy have his gathering another day?" My mother's voice turned cold. "Barbara, don't be selfish. This is important to your brother. You're always so rigid with your planning. Can't you be flexible just once?" I stood firm. "I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't change it now. Everyone's already arranged to come tomorrow. I've spent weeks preparing. I hope you and Dad can still make it, even if it's just for an hour or two." "We'll see," she said before hanging up. That night I barely slept. A voice in my head kept saying, "They won't choose you. They never do." But I pushed it away. This was different. This was my dream, my achievement. Surely this one time they would show up for me. The morning of my housewarming dawned bright and clear. I woke up early, pushed aside my concerns about my mother's call, and focused on the final preparations. The lasagna needed to bake for 3 hours. The house needed fresh flowers. The drinks needed to be chilled. Today will be perfect, I told myself as I arranged sunflowers in a vase on the dining room table. Everyone will come and they'll see what I've accomplished. By 2:30, everything was ready. The food was warming in the oven. The drinks were cooling in ice buckets. Music played softly through the speakers I'd installed in the living room. I even put together a photo album, showcasing the before and after pictures of the house and all the improvements I'd made in the 3 months since moving in. At 3 o'clock, I stood by the front window watching the street for approaching cars. By 3:15, no one had arrived. I checked my phone to make sure I hadn't missed any messages. Nothing. At 3:30, I sent a group text to everyone. "Food's getting cold, can't wait to see you all." No one replied. By 4 o'clock, I started calling people individually. My college friend Jen didn't answer. My coworker Dave texted back, "So sorry something came up last minute." Rain check, my cousin Amy claimed she had the flu. Another friend said her car wouldn't start. I tried not to panic. Maybe there was a traffic accident. Maybe they were all running late together somehow. At 4:30, I called my parents' house. No answer. I called my father's cell phone, straight to voicemail. I called my mother. No answer. By 5 o'clock, I had eaten 2 pieces of lasagna by myself and opened a bottle of wine. The house that had felt so perfect that morning now seemed to mock me with its emptiness. The extra bedrooms I'd proudly furnished for future guests stood vacant. The dining table set for 20 held only my lonely plate. At 6, I tried my best friend Stacy, who finally picked up on the 4th ring. "Hey, Barb," she said, her voice strangely tight. Music and laughter sounded in the background. "Stacy, where is everyone? Where are you?" "The party started 3 hours ago." "Oh, she hesitated. "I'm so sorry, I meant to call you. There was this thing with my sister's kid and then my car." Someone in the background called Stacy's name, followed by more laughter. It sounded like a party. "Stacy, where are you right now?" I demanded. "Nowhere, just at home dealing with this family stuff." I heard a male voice in the background yell, "Stacy, bring more ice for the drinks." The voice sounded like my brother Tommy. "Are you at Tommy's?" I asked, my voice shaking. Stacy went quiet for a long moment. "Barbara, I can explain. You're at my brother's apartment warming, aren't you? The one he scheduled on the same day as mine." "It wasn't planned this way," Stacy said weakly. "Your mom called yesterday and said you had to reschedule, but Tommy was still having his thing, so we should all go there instead." I hung up without responding and immediately opened social media. There it was, posted an hour ago, multiple photos of my entire family, my parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, plus all my friends crowded into Tommy's new apartment, raising glasses in a toast. My mother's caption read, "Proud of our boy's first home, a special day for the family." I scrolled through the photos with trembling hands. There was the cake my mother had made, The same cake she'd made for my high school graduation. There were my cousins who had texted me they were out of town. There was my father arm around Tommy, beaming with pride. And there, in the center of it all, was Tommy, who had never saved $1 in his life, celebrating his achievements surrounded by everyone I loved. I called my mother again. This time she answered. "Hi, honey," she said casually, as if nothing was wrong. Music and chatter filled the background. "Mom, what's going on? Where is everyone? Why are you all at Tommy's?" "Oh, Barbara," she sighed. "I told you we needed to reschedule your thing. Tommy had already planned his gathering and we couldn't disappoint him. You know how sensitive he is. But I sent invitations a month ago. Tommy only decided to do this yesterday after he knew about my party." "Now that's not true," my mother replied, her tone suddenly defensive. "Tommy has been planning this for weeks. He just forgot to tell us until recently. You know how he is. Mom, you promised you'd come." "Everyone promised. Barbara, you're making too big a deal out of this. It's just a housewarming. You can have another one next weekend." Tommy needed this today. His lease signing was yesterday and he was so excited. In the background I heard Tommy shout, "Is that Barbara? Tell her she should come over. There's plenty of room." The casual cruelty of his invitation broke something inside me. I ended the call without another word and sank to the floor of my kitchen, surrounded by the food no one would eat in the house, no one cared to see. As the evening wore on social media, updates continued to appear. More photos, more celebrations, more congratulations for Tommy. No one mentioned me, no one apologized. It was as if my party, my home, my 11 years of sacrifice simply didn't matter. At 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Wiping my eyes, I opened the door to find a woman about my age standing on my porch. She held a plate covered with aluminum foil. "Hi," she said with a gentle smile. "I'm Sarah, your neighbor from across the street. I noticed you had a lot of food prepared, but no guests showed up. I thought you might like some company and some cake. My husband made too much for our dinner party last night." The kindness of this stranger contrasted with the betrayal of my family and friends brought fresh tears to my eyes. I invited her in, grateful to not be alone with my thoughts for at least a little while. The morning after my failed housewarming, I woke to multiple text messages from my family. None were apologies. My father wrote, "Hope you weren't too upset about yesterday. Tommy's party was great. You should have come." My mother sent, "Call me when you're done pouting." Tommy himself texted, "Sorry you missed the fun. My place isn't as fancy as yours, but it's got heart." I couldn't bring myself to respond to any of them. Instead, I called my grandfather, my mother's father, who lived in a retirement community 2 hours away. Grandpa Jack had always been different from the rest of the family. Thoughtful, fair, and genuinely supportive of my dreams. He hadn't been able to attend my housewarming because of his health, but he had sent a beautiful houseplant and a heartfelt card. "Grandpa," I said when he answered, my voice breaking. "Nobody came to my housewarming yesterday. They all went to Tommy's apartment warming instead. Even Mom and Dad." "Oh, Barbara," he sighed heavily. "I was afraid something like this might happen when your mother called me last week." Last week I sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" There was a long pause. "I'm not sure I should tell you this, sweetheart. It will only hurt you more. Please, Grandpa. I need to know what's going on." He sighed again. "Your mother called to tell me that Tommy had found an apartment and they were planning a surprise housewarming for him on Saturday. I reminded her that was the same day as your party, and she said..." He hesitated. "She said what, Grandpa?" "She said they were going to try to get you to reschedule, but if you wouldn't, they figured most people would choose Tommy's event anyway since it was closer to town and more convenient." The revelation struck me like a physical blow. They planned this. They deliberately scheduled his party on the same day as mine. "I'm afraid so, sweetheart. I told your mother it wasn't right, but you know how she is about Tommy. Ever since he was born, he's been the center of her world." "But why, Grandpa? Why would they do this to me?" I think..." He paused again. "I think they've never understood your independence, Barbara. The way you set a goal and achieved it on your own makes them uncomfortable, because it highlights how much they've enabled Tommy. Your success is in a way a criticism of their parenting." I thought about this, remembering all the times my achievements had been downplayed while Tommy's smallest accomplishments were celebrated. My straight A's throughout school had been expected, not praised. My college scholarship had been acknowledged with a simple dinner at home, while Tommy's acceptance to community college, which he dropped out of after one semester, warranted a huge party with extended family. "There's something else you should know," my grandfather said quietly. "Tommy didn't save for that apartment, Barbara. Your parents gave him $50,000 for the down payment. They took it from their retirement fund." The room seemed to spin around me. $50,000. They gave him $50,000. They never gave me a cent toward my house. Not 1 cent. "I know, sweetheart. It's not fair, and it's not right." After talking to my grandfather, I felt compelled to look back through old family photo albums. I pulled them from the boxes I hadn't yet unpacked and spread them on my living room floor. As I flipped through the pages, a pattern emerged that I'd never fully recognized before. There were dozens of photos of Tommy's birthday parties, with elaborate cakes and piles of presents. My birthdays were documented with a single photo each year, if at all. There were entire albums dedicated to Tommy's Little League games, but only a few scattered pictures of my debate team competitions, despite the fact that I won state championships. My high school graduation was commemorated with 3 photos, while Tommy's took up an entire album, even though he barely passed his senior year. The evidence of lifelong favoritism was overwhelming, documented in faded photographs and handwritten captions. Tommy's big day, our star, the champion. For me, the captions were simpler: Barbara 2004. Barbara's college move-in. Barbara at Christmas. I was still sitting amidst the photo albums when my phone rang. It was my mother. "Barbara, this silent treatment is childish," she said, without preamble. "You need to call your brother and congratulate him on his new place." "Mom," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady, "did you and Dad give Tommy $50,000 for his apartment?" The silence on the other end of the line confirmed it before she spoke. "Who told you that? Was it your grandfather? He had no right to share private family matters with you." "So it's true." "Yes, we helped Tommy with a down payment. He needed our support. Unlike you, he doesn't have a stable job or perfect credit. And whose fault is that Mom, you and Dad have bailed him out his entire life? He's never had to be responsible, because you've never made him be." "That's not fair, Barbara. Tommy has challenges you don't understand." "What challenges?" "Being the favorite. Having everything handed to him while I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. While I ate ramen for dinner 5 nights a week for 11 years to save for my house." "See, this is exactly why we don't discuss financial matters with you," my mother said coldly. "You're always so judgmental. Tommy appreciates our help. You just want to make us feel bad about supporting him." "I spent 11 years saving for my house, Mom. 11 years of sacrifice. I invited everyone a month in advance to my housewarming, and you deliberately scheduled Tommy's party on the same day. You chose him. You always choose him." "Barbara, you're being dramatic. It was just a scheduling conflict. And frankly, your attitude right now is exactly why people preferred to go to Tommy's. He's fun and easygoing. You're rigid and demanding." The casual cruelty of her words left me speechless. "Look," she continued, "Tommy is having people over again next weekend. Why don't you come? You can see his apartment and apologize for this little tantrum you're throwing." "Apologize?" I finally found my voice. "For what exactly should I apologize, Mom? For working hard? For achieving my goals without your help? For expecting my family to keep their promises? For being selfish, Barbara? For not understanding that family means supporting each other, especially those who need extra help like your brother? What about supporting me, Mom? When have you ever put my needs first?" "You've never needed us, Barbara. You've made that very clear with your independence. Tommy needs us. He always has." The truth hit me with stunning clarity in my family's eyes. My self-reliance wasn't a virtue, but a justification for their neglect. My strength had become the very reason they felt entitled to withhold their support. "I have to go, Mom," I said, my voice hollow. "Barbara, don't hang up. We need to resolve this. Your father and I want you to come to dinner on Sunday and put this behind us. Family comes first. Remember, family comes first," I repeated. "Except when the family member is me." I ended the call and sat motionless among the photo albums, the evidence of a lifetime of being second best spread around me like fallen leaves. For the first time, I allowed myself to fully acknowledge what I had always known but never admitted in my family's story. I was never meant to be the main character. The evening after my conversation with my mother, I was sitting on my back porch staring blankly at the garden I had planned to showcase during my housewarming when the gate opened. Sarah, my neighbor, who had brought cake the night before, stepped into the yard. I hope I'm not intruding," she said, holding up a bottle of wine. "I just thought you might like some company." I managed a weak smile. Company would be nice, actually. We sat together on my porch steps, drinking wine from mismatched mugs because I still hadn't unpacked all my kitchen boxes. The evening air was warm, filled with the scent of the jasmine I'd planted along the fence. "Do you want to talk about what happened yesterday?" Sarah asked gently. Something about her calm presence made it easy to open up. I told her everything. The 11 years of saving, the excitement of finally buying my home, the carefully planned housewarming, and the devastating betrayal when everyone chose my brother's last-minute gathering instead. The worst part, I concluded, is finding out they planned it this way. They deliberately set up my brother's event on the same day as mine, knowing people would have to choose. Sarah listened attentively, her expression thoughtful. "That sounds incredibly painful," she said when I finished. "And unfortunately very familiar." "Familiar." She nodded. "I'm a family therapist. I specialize in family dynamics, particularly in cases of what we call golden child and scapegoat relationships between siblings." Golden child and scapegoat. "It's a common pattern in dysfunctional families," Sarah explained. One child becomes the golden child who can do no wrong and receives disproportionate praise, resources, and forgiveness. The other becomes the scapegoat, who can never quite measure up regardless of their actual achievements, and whose needs are consistently minimized or ignored. Her words resonated so deeply that tears sprang to my eyes. That's exactly what it's been like my whole life. Tommy can do no wrong even when he fails. I can do no right even when I succeed. "It's not about you, Barbara," Sarah said gently. "It's about your parents' own unresolved issues. Golden children are often used to fulfill the parents' unfulfilled dreams or bolster their self-esteem. Scapegoats often represent qualities the parents feel threatened by, like independence, strength, or success achieved without their help. So my success threatens them. It might. Your ability to achieve your goals without their help could make them feel unnecessary or inadequate. Meanwhile, your brother's dependence makes them feel needed and important." We talked for hours. Sarah explained concepts like emotional parentification, how I'd been expected to be the responsible one from a young age, gaslighting, how my family dismissed my feelings and rewrote reality, and flying monkeys, how they recruited friends and extended family to reinforce their narrative. As the night deepened, Sarah shared stories of her own difficult family dynamics and how she'd established healthy boundaries. She invited me to join her friend group for a hiking trip that weekend, an offer I gratefully accepted. Just as we were saying goodnight, my doorbell rang. It was nearly 11 o'clock. Sarah offered to leave, but something in me wanted a witness to whatever was about to happen. I opened the door to find my brother Tommy standing on my porch, swaying slightly. The smell of alcohol wafted from him. Barb," he slurred. "Thought I'd stop by to see this fancy house you've been bragging about." "I haven't been bragging, Tommy," I said tiredly. "And it's late. Can this wait for another time?" "Always so rigid with your schedules," he mumbled, pushing past me into the house. "Oh, you have company. Hi, I'm Tommy, the disappointing younger brother." He extended his hand dramatically towards Sarah. "I'm Sarah, Barbara's neighbor," she replied calmly. Tommy wandered into my living room, picking up decorative items and setting them down carelessly. "Nice place. Must be nice to be so perfect. Barbara the perfect. Always doing everything right, making the rest of us look bad." "Tommy, what are you talking about? I've never tried to make anyone look bad." He spun around, suddenly angry. "You've made me look bad my entire life. Why can't you be more like your sister? Barbara never gives us this much trouble. Barbara saved her allowance. Why can't you every single day?" Growing up, I heard about Saint Barbara and her perfect grades and perfect savings and perfect plans. I was stunned. This was so far from my experience of our childhood that I couldn't formulate a response. And now he continued, jabbing a finger in my direction. "You're upset because for once, one time, people chose me instead of you." Do you have any idea what it's been like living in your shadow? Do you know how hard Mom and Dad worked to plan that party for me yesterday? They planned it, I whispered. You knew they deliberately scheduled it against my housewarming. Tommy's face flushed. They didn't want to hurt your feelings, but they thought it was time you learned you're not the center of the universe. You've been so full of yourself since you bought this place, going on and on about how you did it all on your own. I did do it on my own, I said quietly. Unlike you who took $50,000 from Mom and Dad's retirement. Tommy's eyes widened. Who told you that Grandpa, that senile old man, needs to mind his own business? Don't talk about Grandpa that way, I said, my voice hardening. And yes, he told me. He also told me Mom and Dad planned your party specifically to compete with mine. They were trying to teach you a lesson, Tommy shouted. You've been insufferable, Barbara. Always so independent, so successful, making them feel like they failed with me because I'm not like you. They're tired of you making them look bad. The revelation hit me like a thunderbolt. My family hadn't simply preferred Tommy. They had actively conspired to hurt me, to punish me for my success, to teach me a lesson for the crime of achieving my dreams through hard work. Sarah, who had been silent during this exchange, spoke up. I think it might be best if you leave now, Tommy, Barbara, and you can continue this conversation when you're sober. Who are you to tell me what to do in my sister's house? Tommy sneered. This is family business. I'm someone who cares about Barbara, Sarah replied calmly. And from what I've seen tonight, she could use more people in her corner. Tommy looked from Sarah to me, then laughed bitterly. Fine. Enjoy your perfect house, Barbara. Enjoy being alone in it. Because as long as you keep acting superior to everyone, that's exactly what you'll be. Alone. After he stormed out, I sank onto the couch, trembling. Are you okay? Sarah asked, sitting beside me. I don't know, I answered honestly. I just found out my family deliberately set out to hurt me, to punish me for working hard and achieving my goals. How am I supposed to be okay with that? Sarah took my hand. You're not supposed to be okay with it. It's not okay. But you don't have to face it alone. For the first time since the disastrous housewarming, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe family wasn't just the people who shared my blood. Maybe family could also be found in unexpected places, like a neighbor who showed up with cake when I needed it most. In the 2 weeks following Tommy's drunken visit, I sank into a depression unlike anything I'd experienced before. I called in sick to work 3 days straight, something I'd never done in my entire career. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. The beautiful home I'd worked so hard for felt tainted somehow. A symbol not of achievement, but of everything I'd lost in pursuit of my dream. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from my parents, each one more manipulative than the last. Barbara, you're blowing this out of proportion. Mom, your mother is very upset with you. Call her. Dad, we never said we wouldn't come to your party. You misunderstood. Mom, Tommy feels terrible about your fight. He says you were very mean to him. Mom, family should forgive and forget. Stop being stubborn. Dad, I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I took Sarah's advice and sought professional help. The therapist she recommended, Dr. Melissa Chen, specialized in family trauma. In our first session, I could barely speak through my tears. By our third session, I began to understand how deeply my family dynamics had affected every aspect of my life. Barbara, Dr. Chen said, during one session, your entire identity has been built around proving your worth through achievement. You've been working yourself to exhaustion trying to earn the love and approval that should have been freely given. But that's how life works, I protested weakly. You work hard, you achieve things, you earn respect. Respect, yes, but not love. Love in healthy families is unconditional. What you're describing is conditional approval based on performance, and it's a harmful pattern that's been deeply ingrained in you. These sessions were painful but illuminating. I began to see how I'd internalized my family's narrative that I didn't deserve celebration, that my accomplishments were somehow less worthy than my brother's smallest efforts. I started to recognize the voice in my head that constantly said, "It's not enough. You're not enough," as my mother's voice, not my own. Meanwhile, my work performance suffered. Projects I would normally excel at felt overwhelming. My focus was scattered. My boss, Janet, called me into her office after I missed a major deadline. "Barbara, what's going on?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "This isn't like you at all." The presentation for the Westfield account was incomplete. Your reports are late and 3 clients have mentioned you seem distracted during calls. I'm sorry, I said, fighting back tears. I'm dealing with some personal issues. Is there anything I can do to help? She asked. I hesitated, then gave her a sanitized version of what had happened. To my surprise, Janet was sympathetic. Take the rest of the week off, she said. Get your head straight. But Barbara, I need to be clear. When you come back, I need you at 100%. The Anderson project is coming up and it's crucial for the department. I was planning to put you in charge, but I need to know you can handle it. The Anderson project was exactly the kind of opportunity I'd been working toward for years. The thought of losing it because of my family's toxicity sparked something in me, a flash of anger that cut through the fog of depression. I'll be ready, I promised. And for the first time in weeks, I meant it. That weekend, Sarah introduced me to her friend group at a local hiking trail. We walked for hours through towering pine trees, and I found myself opening up to these strangers about my situation. To my amazement, several of them shared similar stories of family dysfunction. My parents didn't speak to me for 2 years after I changed my major in college, said Michael, a graphic designer with kind eyes. My older sister stole my identity and ruined my credit when I was 22, shared Alicia, a kindergarten teacher. My parents told me I should forgive her, because she needed the money more than I needed good credit. For the first time, I didn't feel alone in my experience. These people understood in a way even my closest friends never had. By the end of the hike, I had 3 new phone numbers and an invitation to a community garden project the following weekend. Just as I was beginning to feel stronger, my family escalated. They showed up at my house unannounced on a Sunday afternoon, my parents, Tommy, and even my Aunt Susan, my mother's sister. This has gone on long enough, my father announced as they filed into my living room without waiting for an invitation. We're here to clear the air. What followed was a masterclass in manipulation. My mother cried about how I'd broken her heart by turning against the family. My aunt reminded me of all your parents have done for you over the years. Tommy played the victim, claiming I'd always been jealous of him, and the special bond he shared with our parents. My father lectured me about the importance of family unity and forgiveness. Not once did any of them acknowledge the pain they'd caused me. Not once did they take responsibility for their actions. Instead, they rewrote history, claiming there had been a misunderstanding about the party dates, that they had always intended to stop by my housewarming but lost track of time, that I was too sensitive and looking for reasons to be hurt. I sat in silence as they talked over each other, each one eager to explain why I was wrong, why I was to blame, why I needed to apologize and make amends. When they finally ran out of steam, I spoke quietly. I need some time to think about everything you've said. I'd like you to leave now. That's it, my mother demanded. We come all this way, pour our hearts out, and all you can say is you need time to think. Yes, I replied firmly. That's all I have to say right now. After they left, I called Sarah, who came over immediately. As I recounted the ambush, she listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions. They're escalating because you're changing the dynamic, she observed. You're not playing your assigned role anymore, and it's threatening the family system they've established. The next day, my cousin Megan called me. We'd been close as children, but had drifted apart in adulthood. Barbara, she said hesitantly, I wanted to check on you. Aunt Linda called Mom yesterday and said you're having some kind of breakdown. She said you've been acting erratically, making accusations against the family, and that we should all be concerned about your mental health. I gripped the phone tightly. What exactly did she say, Megan? That you've become paranoid, thinking the family is conspiring against you. That you're isolated and making poor decisions. That you've become unstable since buying your house and might need intervention. The realization that my mother was actively working to undermine me with extended family hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just dismissing my feelings or gaslighting me about past events. This was a deliberate campaign to discredit me, to paint me as mentally unstable. Megan, none of that is true, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. I'm seeing a therapist, yes, but it's to deal with the hurt of having my entire family skip my housewarming to attend my brother's competing event, an event they deliberately scheduled on the same day as mine. Megan was quiet for a moment. I wondered about that. Mom showed me Aunt Linda's social media post from Tommy's apartment party, and I noticed it was the same day as your housewarming, it seemed. Weird. It was deliberately cruel, I said, finally allowing the anger I'd been suppressing to enter my voice. And now instead of apologizing, they're trying to convince everyone I'm having a mental breakdown. After speaking with Megan, I discovered that my mother had been calling other relatives, friends, and even a former college roommate, spreading the narrative that I was unstable and resentful. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. That night I couldn't sleep. I paced through my house, the home I'd sacrificed so much to own, and for the first time I wondered if it had been worth it. Not the house itself. I still loved my home. But the cost to my mental health, my relationships, my trust in others. As dawn broke, I made a decision. I would not let my family destroy what I'd built. Not my home, not my career, not my sense of self. I would fight back not with their tactics of manipulation and deceit, but with truth, boundaries, and the strength I'd always had, but never fully recognized. I called in sick to work one more day, but this time it wasn't to hide under the covers. It was to formulate a plan, a strategy for reclaiming my narrative, my relationships, and my life from the people who seemed determined to diminish me at every turn. The morning after my sleepless night, I met with Dr. Chen for an emergency session. I laid out everything that had happened. The family ambushed my mother's campaign to paint me as mentally unstable, and my growing realization that this pattern of behavior would never stop unless I took decisive action. What you're describing is a smear campaign, Dr. Chen confirmed. It's a common tactic when someone in a dysfunctional family system starts to establish boundaries or question the established narrative. The goal is to isolate you, to make you doubt yourself, and ultimately to force you back into your assigned role. How do I fight it? I asked, determined. I can't let them keep doing this. Dr. Chen helped me develop a strategic plan with 3 main components: documentation, boundaries, and rebuilding. First, documentation. I created a detailed timeline of events, starting with the housewarming invitation sent a month in advance and ending with the most recent manipulative texts and calls. I included screenshots of social media posts, text messages, and emails that contradicted my family's revised version of events. I noted who had been present during specific conversations and what exactly had been said. This wasn't about proving I was right to others. It was about strengthening my own conviction in reality when my family worked so hard to distort it. Second, boundaries. Dr. Chen and I crafted clear, firm statements about what behavior I would and would not accept from family members moving forward. I wrote these down, practiced them aloud, and prepared responses for the manipulation tactics I knew they would use to try to circumvent these boundaries. I will not discuss this further until you acknowledge what actually happened. I am not willing to participate in conversations where my experiences are denied or minimized. I need space right now. I will reach out when I'm ready to talk. I also decided to temporarily block my family on social media and to limit phone calls to specific times when I felt emotionally prepared to engage. Finally, rebuilding. This part of the plan focused on strengthening my support network, rediscovering my professional confidence, and reconnecting with the joy my home had initially brought me before it became tainted by family drama. With my plan in place, I returned to work the following Monday with renewed focus. I approached my boss Janet with a proposal for the Anderson project that exceeded her expectations. I volunteered to work weekends to make up for my recent lapses and dove into the project with an intensity born of determination to reclaim my professional identity. "This is the Barbara I know," Janet commented after I presented my preliminary work to the team. "Whatever you did to get your spark back, keep doing it." On the personal front, I threw myself into Sarah's community. I joined the Neighborhood Improvement Committee, which met weekly to discuss projects like community gardens and playground renovations. I volunteered with a local organization that helped refurbish homes for elderly residents who couldn't afford repairs. Through these activities, I met dozens of neighbors and community members who knew nothing of my family drama and valued me simply for my contributions and company. Sarah introduced me to a weekend carpentry class at the community college, where I learned basic skills for home improvement projects. There was something profoundly healing about creating tangible improvements to my home with my own hands. Each shelf, I hung each wall, I painted each garden bed. I reclaimed the space as truly mine, untainted by my family's attempts to diminish my achievement. As I followed my plan, my family escalated their efforts to draw me back into the dysfunctional dynamic. They alternated between love bombing. "We miss you so much. Everything can go back to normal if you just come to Sunday dinner," and vicious attacks. "Your selfishness is destroying this family." When neither worked, they enlisted more distant relatives and mutual friends to reach out with messages like, "Life is short, Barbara. Don't waste it on petty grudges." None of it swayed me. With each attempt at manipulation, I referred back to my documentation to remind myself of the truth, enforced my boundaries with calm consistency, and leaned on my growing support network for perspective. 6 weeks after my disastrous housewarming, I was preparing a presentation for the Anderson project when I received a disturbing call from a colleague. Barbara, said Mark, who worked in a different department, "I just had the strangest conversation. A woman called claiming to be your mother, asking to speak to Janet. She said she was concerned about your mental health and wanted to warn Janet that you might not be reliable for major projects right now. I didn't put her through, but I thought you should know." I thanked him for the information, my hand trembling as I ended the call. My mother had crossed a line I never imagined she would cross, attempting to sabotage my career by contacting my boss. I immediately called Janet, who confirmed she'd received a similar call but had dismissed it as inappropriate. "I judge my employees on their work, not on family drama," she assured me. "But, Barbara, you might want to address this situation before it escalates further." That night, I sat in my garden surrounded by the flowers and vegetables I'd planted in the weeks since the housewarming. The peace I'd worked so hard to cultivate felt threatened once again by my family's toxic behavior. But this time, instead of crumbling, I felt a steely resolve form within me. My family had tried to sabotage my housewarming, my reputation, and now my career. They had shown me exactly who they were and what they were capable of. It was time to stop hoping for change and start accepting reality. I drafted a clear, direct email to my parents and brother. "I am aware that Mom attempted to contact my boss to undermine my professional reputation. This crosses a boundary that I cannot and will not tolerate. I am taking time away from this relationship to focus on my well-being. Please do not contact me, my friends, my neighbors, or my workplace. I will reach out when and if I am ready to establish a new relationship based on mutual respect. Any attempt to contact me or to disparage me to others during this time will result in a longer period of separation." I sent the email, then blocked their numbers on my phone. The relief was immediate and profound, like putting down a heavy burden I'd been carrying for years. The extended family reunion was approaching in 2 weeks. Normally, this annual gathering at my uncle's lakeside property would be mandatory attendance with heavy guilt laid on anyone who missed it. This year, I decided I would not attend. Instead, I would host my own gathering, a do-over housewarming with the new friends and colleagues who had supported me through this difficult time. As I planned this event, I felt none of the anxiety that had preceded my original housewarming. This time, I wasn't seeking validation or approval. I wasn't trying to prove my worth through my achievement. I was simply opening my home to people who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them or how I made them look. Sarah helped spread the word through the neighborhood network, and colleagues from work readily accepted my invitation. I kept the plans simple, a casual barbecue in my backyard with no elaborate preparations or expectations. The night before my do-over housewarming, I received a group text from my family. It read, "Emergency family meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. at Mom and Dad's. Non-negotiable. Family matters to discuss that cannot wait." The old Barbara would have felt conflicted, guilty, maybe even canceled her own event to accommodate this demand. The new Barbara simply responded, "I have plans tomorrow. I am not available." Then I put my phone away and continued preparing for the celebration of my choosing with the family I was building for myself. The morning of my do-over housewarming dawned sunny and clear, as if nature itself approved of my decision to reclaim my joy. I woke early feeling lighter than I had in months. The knot of anxiety that had taken up permanent residence in my chest since the original housewarming had finally loosened. I spent the morning casually preparing, setting up a simple buffet table in the backyard, arranging chairs around the fire pit I'd built with skills from my carpentry class, and placing string lights through the trees that bordered my property. Unlike my first attempt at hosting, I didn't strive for perfection. There were no elaborate decorations, no personalized party favors, no gourmet menu that had taken days to prepare. The food doesn't have to be perfect, I told myself as I marinated chicken for the grill. The house doesn't have to be spotless. The people who matter don't care about those things. Sarah arrived early to help, bringing a homemade potato salad and her easy warmth. I invited a few extra people, she confessed. I hope that's okay. They've heard me talk about you so much they wanted to meet you. The more the merrier, I replied, and meant it. People began arriving at 2 o'clock. Neighbors I'd met through the improvement committee, colleagues from work, members of the weekend hiking group. Each guest brought something to share: food, drinks, flowers for my garden. They complimented my home with genuine appreciation, asked thoughtful questions about the renovations I'd done, and filled my rooms with laughter. Around 3:30, Janet from work arrived with her husband. "I hope we're not too late," she said, handing me a beautiful houseplant. "We had another commitment earlier." "You're right on time," I assured her. "Help yourself to food and drinks in the backyard." As I showed her through the house, Janet paused to admire the built-in bookshelves I'd constructed in the living room. "These are gorgeous, Barbara. Did you do these yourself?" "I did," I said proudly. "I've been taking carpentry classes at the community college." "It shows," she said. "By the way, I wanted to tell you in person. The team loved your presentation for the Anderson project. We're giving you full lead on it with a budget increase and 2 additional team members." Joy surged through me. The pure, uncomplicated joy of professional recognition earned through genuine merit, not desperate overachievement to prove my worth. "Thank you," I said simply. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Janet replied. "That's why we chose you." As the afternoon progressed, my home filled with exactly what I'd always wanted it to contain: warmth, friendship, and authentic connection. People mingled easily, moving between the kitchen, living room, and backyard. Someone brought a guitar and started playing softly near the fire pit. Children of various neighbors played tag on my lawn. Around 5 o'clock, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found Sarah standing there with an elderly man in a wheelchair. "Special delivery," she said with a grin. "Grandpa Jack?" I exclaimed, kneeling to hug him. "How did you get here? The retirement home is 2 hours away." Sarah arranged everything he said, patting my hand. She called the home last week and coordinated with the staff. "One of the nurses drove me down this morning." Tears filled my eyes as I looked at Sarah. "Thank you," I whispered. "Everyone should have someone from their first family at their housewarming," she replied softly, "especially someone who's always been in their corner." I wheeled Grandpa Jack through the house, showing him every room, every detail. His eyes shone with pride. "It's even more beautiful than the pictures you sent," he said. "You've created something special here, Barbara." When we reached the backyard, Grandpa Jack asked me to stop the wheelchair near the center of the gathering. He cleared his throat and raised his hand, catching everyone's attention. "Excuse me, everyone. I'd like to say something." The conversations quieted as people turned toward us. "Most of you don't know me. I'm Barbara's grandfather, Jack Wilson, and I want to thank all of you for being here today, for celebrating my granddaughter and her beautiful home." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Barbara, in our family there's a tradition. When someone buys their first home, they receive this." He opened the box to reveal an antique silver key on a delicate chain. "This belonged to your great-grandmother. It was the key to the first home she and your great-grandfather owned after immigrating to America. It's meant to be passed down to the first of each generation to buy their own home." My hand trembled as I accepted the box. "But Grandpa, shouldn't this have gone to Tommy?" Mom said he was the first. Grandpa Jack shook his head firmly. "No. You were the first, Barbara. You did it on your own through hard work and determination. This belongs to you. It always has." As he fastened the necklace around my neck, applause broke out among my guests. I saw genuine happiness on the faces around me, people who were celebrating my achievement not out of obligation, but out of real affection and respect. Just as Grandpa Jack finished his speech, my phone buzzed with a group text from my family. "Where are you?" "The family meeting started an hour ago. This is disrespectful and unacceptable. Mom is crying. Dad is furious. Come immediately." For a moment, the old anxiety threatened to surface. Then I looked around at the community I'd built, the neighbors who had welcomed me, the colleagues who respected my work, the new friends who valued my company, and my grandfather who had traveled 2 hours to honor my achievement properly. I took a photo of the gathering, people smiling, eating, laughing in my backyard, and sent it to the family group chat with a simple message. I'm exactly where I need to be in my home, surrounded by people who show up for me. Then I added another message. When you're ready to acknowledge what happened, to take responsibility for your actions, and to respect my boundaries, we can talk about rebuilding our relationship. Until then, I am focusing on the family I've chosen, people who celebrate my successes instead of punishing me for them. I put my phone away and rejoined the party, my heart full. Within minutes, my mother posted a lengthy, angry response on social media raging about ungrateful children and disrespect. She tagged several family members and mutual friends, clearly expecting them to join in her outrage. Instead, something unexpected happened. Several of my extended family members, who had seen both the original housewarming debacle and my mother's ongoing campaign against me, began to comment with questions. Linda, wasn't Barbara's housewarming the same day as Tommy's apartment party? Why wasn't the family heirloom given to Barbara if she bought her house first? Why are you having a family meeting without including Barbara? The narrative my mother had carefully constructed began to unravel publicly as more relatives asked questions she couldn't answer without revealing the truth. By exposing her own anger, she had inadvertently exposed the dynamic I'd lived with my entire life. As the evening wound down and guests began to depart, each one hugged me and thanked me for a wonderful time. Many made plans to return for future gatherings, game nights, dinner parties, weekend brunches. The home I had worked so hard to create was finally becoming what I had always imagined, a place of connection, friendship, and belonging. After the last guest left, Sarah helped me clean up while Grandpa Jack dozed in his wheelchair on the porch. "You did it," Sarah said, bumping my shoulder gently with hers as we washed dishes side by side. "You reclaimed your space, your story, and your joy." "I couldn't have done it without you," I admitted. "You showed up that first night when no one else did. You helped me see what was happening when I was too hurt to understand it." "That's what real family does," she replied simply. 1 year later, I stood in the center of my backyard, surveying the scene around me with quiet satisfaction. The neighborhood block party I had organized was in full swing. Children played on the playset I had built in one corner of my yard. Adults chatted around tables laden with potluck offerings. Music played from speakers mounted on the deck I had constructed with my own hands. My home had become exactly what I had dreamed of as a child. Not just a structure with walls and a roof, but a gathering place for community, a sanctuary for friendship, a foundation for belonging. My relationship with my birth family remained complicated. After several months of distance, my father had reached out with a tentative apology. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. We were rebuilding slowly on my terms this time. My mother and Tommy were taking longer to acknowledge their role in what had happened, but I had made peace with that possibility. I no longer needed their validation to know my worth. The Anderson project at work had been a tremendous success, earning me a significant promotion. I now led my own team and mentored younger colleagues, particularly young women navigating male-dominated industries. Inspired by my own experience, I had started a small foundation that provided matching funds for first-time homebuyers who had saved a significant portion of their down payment independently. Building Dreams, Building Lives had already helped 3 young women purchase their first homes. As twilight descended on the block party, I called for everyone's attention. Standing on the deck I had built, I raised my glass. A year ago, I learned a painful but powerful lesson about family. I learned that home isn't made of walls and windows, but of the people who truly see you, celebrate your victories, and stand by you in defeat. I learned that sometimes you have to lose the family you were born into to find the family you deserve. I looked around at the faces turned toward me. Sarah and her husband, my colleagues from work, my neighbors who had become friends, the young women from my foundation, and yes, even my father and grandfather who had come today as guests, who respected my boundaries. Thank you all for being my chosen family, for showing me that I was never alone, just looking for connection in the wrong places. My door is always open to each of you, not because of obligation, but because of love, freely given and gratefully received. As glasses were raised in response, I felt a profound sense of completion. The house I had saved for over 11 years had indeed become a home, though not in the way I had originally imagined. The foundation wasn't just concrete and wood, it was trust, respect, and authentic connection. The walls weren't just drywall and paint, they were boundaries that protected what was precious. The roof wasn't just shingles and beams, It was the shelter of genuine community. I had lost a housewarming but found a home, one far more valuable and lasting than I could have built on my own. Have you ever had to choose between the family you were born into and the family you've built for yourself? What helped you make that decision, and how did it change your life? Please share your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize your own well-being and build the family you deserve. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the strength to create boundaries that protect your peace and relationships that honor your worth.